Well, good morning and welcome to Meridian Business Services webinar on how Agile is your business, harnessing digital transformation to survive and thrive. I'm joined here by Eric Levy, Director of Sales with Meridian. I'm Doug Borcherding, our Chief Revenue Officer. We appreciate you spending some moments with us here this morning. For those that may not be familiar with Meridian, we're a professional services firm focused on financial services and a comprehensive capability in the area of NetSuite solutions and services. And in that context, we'll be talking a lot today about many of the functional areas that you see along the bottom of this particular slide. Today we want to talk about what Gartner Group has come to call the nexus of forces, the combination of cloud, data, social, and mobile capabilities that gives small businesses an unprecedented chance to invest in powerful technology that can be implemented quickly and at a fraction of the cost of previous software or in previous eras. And what this has done is invoked an era of digital transformation that can make small businesses agile and competitive. And if this technology is used properly, you can build, small and medium businesses can build a customer experience and business agility that rivals their larger competitors and even replicate or exceed a customer satisfaction capability. Knowing how to capitalize on that technology and the willingness to try is absolutely critical. I'll go one step further. Digital transformation and embracing this nexus of forces is actually imperative for all organizations, imperative to embrace now for their very survival. For it's not the strongest of the species survive, it's the most responsive to change. And let's face it, you cannot respond in today's world with yesterday's fragmented business systems. We'll spend some time talking about how a landscape like this, so much electronic spaghetti, really inhibits an ability to create organizational or operational agility for your organization. And it's much more than just moving from a system like this to a system that looks like this. It's not, while the user experience is part of the equation, it's the cultural and organizational fortitude to embrace a responsiveness to change, a monitoring of change, and invoking and taking action against that change, that willingness to try to be responsive to what's happening in the world today. And we'll talk about that as we proceed. We believe that digital transformation and organizational agility are two sides of the same coin. Organizational agility is that cultural and organizational fortitude to build into the structure of your organization, the ability to quickly reconfigure strategy to structure, processes, people, and technology. Traditionally, that's been toward additional value creating, but in today's marketplace, it also is value protecting opportunities, being responsive to change that's coming from without rather than just from within. Digital transformation is the technological side of that coin. The commitment to adopt a technology platform that is scalable, functionally unified, and delivered with powerful process workflow tools is mandatory to survive and adapt in today's business landscape. And making that case is the bulk of the remainder of this presentation. And I might say before we continue, if there are questions along the way, please use the chat feature in WebEx to submit them, and we'll monitor and stop from time to time, or have Eric stop me, and we'll present or try to respond as best we can to any questions. But the importance of digital transformation is really predicated upon this concept of business process maturity. I'm going to try to use the highlighter here, and absent that, we'll go to the laser pointer. But I first came across this Gartner study in 2008. And when I first saw it, it was presented by a business analyst, and I literally rolled my eyes. I had so much analyst pablum, and I just didn't understand, you know, what it was trying to get across. But if you look at this, what's occurring is that to move up the business process maturity curve, you need to model and analyze business processes, and then directly link those processes, models, and rules into execution. And it's no mistake that this is on this kind of dividing line here, and generally we see this is where companies stall out today. And you know, that's as true today, I believe, as it was in 2008. And to the point that we made earlier, moving up the curve in terms of a technological and process sophistication level and across the phases of maturity really are inside this box, inside the box of your organization, was predicated early on based on senior leadership or operational execution and desire to create value from within the organization and leverage technology to that effect. Today, we'd argue that the regulatory landscape, taxation, and new competitive pressures are working from without. With the highlighter, I intended to draw some nice arrows pointing at this from the outside, but you get the point that the threats are coming from without today. In 2010, Gartner updated this slide, and again, you see that organizations were typically starting here and kind of held at stage 2 of this cycle, and the reason being, the updated report went, that data inconsistency and stovepiped or fragmented systems were holding them back. What we see further from the outside in is digital disruptors today are entering markets. We have entrants coming in that are driving enterprise and industry transformation with economies of scale and whole new business models and strategies encompassing the industry with enterprise performance cultures, new methods, technologies, and economies of scale, as I said, with their objective to transform entire industries, not just segments or portions or their own company, but fundamentally redefining entire swaths of our economy. Coming back to the original graphic, you probably guessed now those digital disruptors are organizations like Uber and Amazon that engage an entire market or the incumbent or act as incumbent players adopting new digital models. What happens when this occurs in an industry is this curve from where we've stagnated gets exponentially steeper. And absent a technology platform allowing your organization to rapidly adapt business processes, movement up that maturity curve becomes exponentially harder, if not impossible. You simply can't code fast enough to keep up. The analogs to what's going on were studied by Tom Siebel, who is a serial entrepreneur, the founder of Siebel Systems, some would say the godfather of CRM, and more recently the founder of C3 IoT, an Internet of Things company. He referenced the intersection of science and technology meeting social and economic systems. And when that occurs, you tend to see something akin to what the late Stephen Jay Gould called punctuated equilibrium in Gould's description of evolutionary biology. In a punctuated equilibrium event, in technological terms, had analogs to Mr. Siebel and he likened them to the discovery of fire, the adoption of agricultural techniques, urban electrification, the introduction of the automobile, and more recently, microprocessor, the internet, and of course, cloud computing. And to Mr. Siebel, it's increasingly clear that we're entering a highly disruptive extinction event. Enterprises that fail to transform themselves will disappear. This extinction event has its causal function in digital transformation. The evidence is also clear. Since the year 2000, over 50% of the Fortune 500 have been acquired, merged, or declared bankruptcy, with no end to this change in sight. In the wake of that change, what we're seeing is the introduction of a new species of innovative corporate entities, back to our evolutionary biology metaphor, with largely new DNA. That DNA is new business processes that you see from Amazon, Facebook, Uber, Zappos, and others. These digital disruptors take many forms. We just talked about Uber and Facebook. Alibaba is the most valuable retailer on the planet. They have no inventory. Airbnb is the world's largest accommodation provider. They own no real estate. Tesla, we all know, at the forefront of purely electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles, but fundamentally their biggest impact may be on the disruption in the automotive industry of the go-to-market dealership model, utterly breaking that down, and a direct-to-consumer model is manifesting itself. Netflix, we all know, is a disruptive force in changing the way we stream technology or stream media, but their lasting contribution as a digital disruptor may be the upsetting of the traditional ways that content, media, and consumption of that media are consumed by the marketplace. Netflix is one of the largest content providers of digital media in its own right today. Who's next? What's next? Are you next? Let's talk about the threats in a little bit more detail. In some more recent research, Gartner looked at the wholesale distribution marketplace, and specifically at companies with low to average strategic focus on digital commerce, and found that 65% of those that are failing to invest or embrace a responsiveness to change are at greater risk to be out of business within 5 years. Conversely, those with a strong strategy and execution around digital commerce would see that as a catalyst to double-digit growth potential. In a similar study, McKinsey broadened the scope to multiple industries and asked companies what percentage of their revenues they felt would be at risk if their organization took no further action to address digital pressures. Staggeringly, what they came up with was that 1/3 of total revenues could be lost or cannibalized if they did nothing further. The risk is clear, and as you move more granularly down into technologies, you see that the threat becomes even more manifest and clear. In the next 5 years, according to a Wall Street Journal article published just this past February, half of searches on the web will be done via voice. Thanks, Alexa. Its voice is among the most disruptive technologies out there. The reason being, it's now the intersection between your organizational digitization or search engine optimization strategy and how an individual consumer or organization interacts with your organization. And in the immortal words of Ricky Bobby, my daddy always said, if you ain't first, you're last. And it seems that the market agrees. When it comes to voice search, you go first position or you go home, because beyond first or second place, there is no future. So let's take a look at the industries that are really at risk here. The technologies that are driving these changes are well documented and in the media every day, from artificial intelligence to the Internet of Things to machine-to-machine integration, autonomous vehicles, drone technology, etc. But what McKinsey did was look specifically at those industry segments and their annual revenue spent on digital innovation over the past 3 years, 5% across industry, and the average company market share that would be cannibalized or put at risk due to lower than average spend. So we'll look at these that have been below average. In the consumer packaged goods space, staggering 49% of total revenues is at risk to be cannibalized by digital products and services within the marketplace. And that's not their own, that's from the digital disruptors that are entering that marketplace. You've seen it, the crumbling of the brick and mortar sales model, the collapse of the traditional trade promotion link between manufacturer, retailer, and consumer. Amazon buys Whole Foods. That happened less than 8 months ago. Now, your television set is full of advertising from your grocery store chains talking about direct to your doorstep delivery. It's utterly changing their business model within 8 months. Online ordering and voice is only going to accelerate that change. The automotive industry, we already talked about the collapsing of the dealership sales model. I've got a high school friend that ran an auto dealership, and in lieu of retooling the whole organization to service and support electronic vehicles and the liability to his organization associated with autonomous vehicles, sold out. Electric vehicles are becoming Internet of Things on wheels. Witness the big three actively wooing and competing to become platforms for delivery of content and new services and distribution channels vis-a-vis Microsoft Sync, Apple Car, and other resources of that kind. In healthcare, I mean, where do you even start? Consumer self-advocacy and ownership of medical history, redefining technology and business processes. New companies in this space spring up overnight. In telecom, you see the cord-cutting wave is driving media companies, the telecom carriers, the tech platforms to merge and define what the new normal is for content consumption. We've only begun to scratch the surface of what's going on in this space. And from a logistics standpoint, blockchain and 3D printing that we see over here will create new distribution segments and fundamentally change many others, obliterating some. Traditional 3PL distribution organizations are under siege to redefine and differentiate themselves based on their utility of technology, their adaptation, and their responsiveness to change. Next to CPG, this is the next highest segment of digital cannibalization. So you see across this, it's ripe for the entrance of new digital disruptors. So those organizations that are expecting the greatest revenue losses will need to digitize their core business, or perhaps jettison it entirely. And this change is fully underway, according to McKinsey's research. Fully a quarter of the industries that responded, or the organizations that responded across all industries, intend to fully digitize their core business model and create completely new digital business models. I've heard cases of grocery store chains that are giving up brick and mortar, turning to become purely warehouse and focus on direct-to-consumer delivery only. You've probably seen those too. There are many of them popping up. Who has the staying power? We'll see. It's clear that over almost 2/3 expect their companies will take a combined approach that will fundamentally change new business models or digitize parts of their core business. But you see that adopting digital transformation is absolutely critical to their success. So what can I do? How do I react to this? The case has been made that Agile performance units, or organizations that are investing and taking action, embracing change, being responsive to it, versus those that are stagnant, are seeing improved performance. And in the area of process management, the three of the 5 areas on this chart that have the biggest delta between winners and losers is in information transparency, an embrace of rapid iteration and experimentation with business process, and continuous learning. All are facilitated by new modern technology platforms. So it's not just about getting to a new UI and replacing a green screen. It's fundamentally having a tool in place that will allow you to take action in these areas. Again, what can I do space? Optimizing and integrating e-commerce is the new table stakes for staying in the game, according to McKinsey. It's a strong statement. But 49% of their respondents to this study said that they're dumping most of their effort into marketing and distribution, which means an integrated e-commerce platform tied to their other operational areas. Again, that's table stakes, and it's clear that standing pat is not an option. But I want to take a look at supply chain down here in terms of what can we do. Only 2% of respondents said they're fundamentally spending a significant amount of time, money, and effort to digitize these processes. And it flies directly in the face of the value of enabling your supply chain. Because according to their research, supply chain has roughly 1/3 of the total digitization benefit in terms of revenue growth potential for your organization. It's Meridian's position that demand planning and inventory optimization or automation solutions can cut inventory costs by 20 to 40% and can reduce sourcing costs by over 30%. Better process collaboration between purchasing, sales channels, and operations can improve order fulfillment rates by over 50%. What does that mean to your bottom line? We need to watch and prepare for the future technologies that will dramatically impact processes and makeup of supply chains. The players that come in with blockchain and 3D printing-based business models are going to force you to react to them. Those are some of those outside pressures. Is your business model ready? Are your systems ready to be able to tackle and continue to differentiate your supply chain in the face of those capabilities? It's very clear that winners are investing in multifunctional process agility, from marketing and distribution to process iteration to supply chain investment. You see the delta here and overall. My personal opinion is that the delta here is really been eliminated by those that are investing in finding the pinch points in processes and taking steps to change, being responsive and investing in ways to eliminate these, because these are often the points of integration between multiple systems of record. And this is why Meridian has really embarked on its building out of its practice around the NetSuite platform, because fundamentally what NetSuite is a single source of the truth, a single data record with an integrated capability across these important business processes, and eliminating the electronic spaghetti of the systems of yesteryear. And that's being delivered across multiple industries. But its fundamental value is really in the fact that the front office applications, your customer care, e-commerce capabilities, customer-facing business processes, and fulfillment business processes are organized around a common customer and contact database, order management capability, and item record that creates operational clarity or an operational agility across all departments. The biggest point I can leave you with in terms of the fundamental need to do something in terms of embracing digital transformation is that these newer landscapes are not just better user interfaces or graphical user interfaces that look more like your iPhone. They fundamentally bring a workflow and process agility platform to you that helps you rapidly deploy a workflow process changes in response to these changing business needs and the influx of the digital disruptors that are entering every industry. These platforms give you the power to create, edit, and manage workflow conditions on a moment's notice, fundamentally creating business process maturity and agility because, again, you can't code it as fast as the change is coming, faster and faster day by day. But don't take our word for it. Splunk is a publicly traded, rapidly growing big data software management company. They've adopted a single platform which allows them to drill down and analyze data and maximize performance and defend value instead of copy and combining data from different sources and systems. Similarly, Glassdoor has replaced all their disparate systems with NetSuite and have increased transaction volumes by 5x without adding staff. They've reduced their monthly close cycle by a factor of 5. Meridian is proud to represent one of the leading platforms supporting this workflow platform that facilitates business process agility. We've got over 12 years experience with the platform, and we focus on proven implementation models that drive bottom line results and operational efficiencies that help you drive value for your organization and defend value against the onslaught of the digital disruptors in the marketplace today. We welcome your questions or inquiries on any of the material that we've presented today and can be reached here at sales@meridianbusiness.com or at the 866 number here. Reach out to Eric, myself, or any of us here at the Meridian NetSuite team. Any questions on the chat line, Eric?
There was a question about a recorded copy of the webinar. We will be sending a recorded copy of the webinar and can provide a copy of the slide deck as well upon request.
Excellent. Happy to do so, and that'll be posted in the next day or so. Our next webinar, staying with the importance of focusing on supply chain, is Automate Your Warehouse and Improve Inventory Management with Data Collection, featuring our partner DSI. We hope you can join us on May 1st at 11, and we'll be getting some promotional emails out so you can register for that event as well. With that, we thank you for your time and look forward to hearing from you soon. Take care.